You are live.
Fantastic.
Hello,
Great.
everyone. Hi,
Hello.
and welcome to the Might and Delight YouTube channel. I'm Anna, and I will be your host. And this is
Jakob. This way.
who is
Yeah,
yes,
Jakob.
this way.
And
Who
I'm
is
the creative director for our projects here at Might and Light.
so this is our first YouTube Q&A, ask me anything. So feel free to ask questions. And also if you like, oh, you guys, you're doing this isn't working, this is a test. We will love your feedback. Please write in the comments. And also if you have questions anytime, put them in the comments and I will try to ask Jakob anything. And you also find our different social media channel, follow us, subscribe to YouTube, and all of that. And now I will not talk boring things anymore, but rather talk to Jakob. You're the founder of Might and Light, who existed for like 11 years. What's your
Yes.
It's 11 years is very long in like game developer years, I think. What's
Yeah, I
your
guess.
driving force? What's the like? Why do you do this? What's its?
Well, I'm one of the founders. I have to correct, so it's not wrong. But yeah, no. I mean, from the beginning, the initiative was basically about taking what we had learned from working in sort of AAA studios and seeing if we could mold that expertise into something that we believed a bit more aesthetically, that was a bit more to our liking. So that was the original idea of Might and Light. And then, of course, it's been sort of evolving over the years. And we had an ambition from the beginning to work more with publishers and sort of in a AAA environment a bit more. But we've been fluxing back and forth, and now we've been in a sort of indie state where we were very few people, and now we're many people again. So yeah, it's back and forth a bit.
What is the best with Might and the Light nowadays? When you go to work in the morning, what's the best? Or when you work from home because it's pandemic?
Yeah. No, I mean it's fantastic that it's grown to a size of, we're around 35, I guess, almost 40 people all in all, I think. And somehow at least I feel like we've managed to keep the culture, like the intimate culture of the company, by introducing the right type of people in the right time, instead of like exploding into being adding 20 people at once or something like that. I've seen that happen in other companies, and it can be very painful. So we have been deliberately taking it quite easy and recruiting people that we see fit into the culture that we have here. So that I think is a great thing at the moment, that it still feels like a small company. So it's good.
Cool. I'm gonna go in to talk about the games, because I think this is because you have a very exciting spring coming up with 2 game releases.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, how did you plan that?
Yeah.
But
I mean, we haven't released anything for so long, and yeah. It's been a couple of years since we released Meadow, which is our the latest Shelter game, and it's just been, I mean, it's been accidents and coincidences that has led to this. I can promise you that it's not some sort of smart marketing scheme, because it's a bit painful to have the 2 releases so close to each other. But all in all, we're very pleased with it. So we've had 2 projects running simultaneously for a while. It's been working fairly well. I mean, it has certainly some challenges involved as well. All in all, I think it's good, but I'm very much looking forward to uniting the company again and sort of working with one project. Like my alpha waves are barely keeping up with all the different meetings about different projects and so on. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, summer. But let's talk about Shelter 3, because that's out in 2 weeks, and it's about Elephant. And we had a question here that I'm just gonna. What's the difference from the previous series? Because Shelter 3, for those who hasn't followed, Shelter is part of, we have Shelter 1, Shelter 2, Pause, and Meadow, and now Shelter 3. So it's like the 5th in this area. So what's
Yeah.
the difference with this from the previous ones?
Shelter 3 is a bit of a mashup between some of the other titles. Like it has somewhat of the open world aspects of Shelter 2 and Meadow, but it's a bit more defined, a bit more linear. Its spirit, I'd say, is closer to Shelter 1 in that it's not that focused on one sort of repeating gameplay loop that you play all the time, like in Shelter 2. It's more that you explore freely and then you find different challenges and enemies and sort of visual narratives along the way. So there's definitely some connections to Shelter 1 spiritually, but the open world side of it makes it more like Shelter 2, I would say.
And this time you've chosen to work with elephants.
Yes.
So there was also a question about what like inspirations you have and how to make a game and so on. So I'm going to try to pitch this in now. So when you work with, why elephants? And how does that transition happen? Do you like look at different animals? Do you go to the zoo and like zebras, not today, yes?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be one way to go about it. No, but this is weird because I sort of had the idea that we should do a game about something like quite agile and cute and something. I remember saying to Anders, who sort of we take this type of decisions together. He's the CEO of the company, and I was sort of saying like red pandas are very cute and they you can climb trees and blah blah blah. And I sort of left that with him, and then nothing happened with it. And then he was like, elephants. It's just going to be elephants, and that was it. So it was basically he just steamrolled the creative process and just said elephants, and I'm like, okay, then I'll make an elephant game.
Okay, cool. And I think it's very interesting because elephants have a herd, and this is from the other shelter games. You're more of like families. Here you have a big herd, and I also think it's fun that it's during the pandemic when we're all alone and missing our herd.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, the concept of family is very, very like important at the moment. No, but this game sort of tries to challenge the idea of belonging in a smaller family, but also in the herd. So it has both sort of concepts going on at the same time, I would say. So you have a calf that is your own, and you're part of a herd that you help lead together with the old matriarch, and there is some sort of dynamic in that. But I mean, we want everyone to feel as though the herd is the family. That's the extended family, so to speak, in this game. So I think that players of the other shelter games, they will recognize the same sort of connection that you get to your family in Shelter 1 or Shelter 2 to the herd. So it's the same, I would say.
And this is the first time, I think, where you have animals that are old, not just young people. What's the decision? Like you said there's this old elephant who's also losing her memory, so you need to help us.
Yeah.
So suddenly it's not just kids, but it's the other part of the generation. What was the decisions behind that, or why did you want to explore that?
Yeah, I can't really remember how that came about. I just think that there's something with elephants that is. I mean, I know we were, and I'm saying we, but the dev team that sort of came up with the initial idea was playing around with the idea of a mythology as one of the sort of concepts of the game. And I guess that the age and the memories of elephants are a very thrilling sort of dimension to play around with. So I think it came out of that. It was spawned out of that idea that you're a sort of generational. It's a generational travel. You have your young newborn calf, and then you have other calves which are a bit older, and then you have the grown-ups, and then you have the aging matriarch. So it's very much a sense of a fellowship of different ages, sharing the same sort of memories of the herd or the tribe. So that was the inspiration, yeah.
And now let's talk about the gameplay, what you actually do. I'm gonna have a question here. Someone said, will it be a survival game like Shelter 2 or follow a storyline?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've asked ourselves this as well. Like, this is what we ask ourselves when we do a shelter game usually. Like, what do we want out of this from a from a survival standpoint, for example. And I mean, every Shelter game has a dimension of survival, and Shelter 3 has that as well. I would say it's definitely lines up with Shelter 2 in that it's pretty much survival oriented. But then again, it has the different sort of fixed dangers of Shelter 1 as well, where you go through a storyline that you sort of choose. But in this game, you're sort of handed different choices by the old matriarch. So she tells you about different memory places she remembers from her youth, basically, and then you get to pick and choose a path that then becomes the way you traverse the world. So you can get a lot of different sort of looks at the world by the choices you make. So I would say it's semi linear storyline, but yeah, there's a survival envelope to the entire thing.
I've heard that you should watch out for those crocodiles with the little calves.
Yeah. Crocodiles will. There are certain dangers that will sort of that are dangerous only to the calves and not to the adults. And then, for example, starving is more an issue for the adults than it is for the calves. So there's some dimensions that there are new gameplay elements that we're introducing. Yeah.
But with these different choices, will you be able to? Is it a game that you can replay again and again and choose different things?
Yeah. There is a dimension of replayability in that concept that we like, and that we hope people like as well. So the world is pretty vast. So it's you can find different biomes and different sort of visual narratives in the world by playing it many times. Yeah.
And I also have a question here about family system.
Mm-hmm.
Is there
the family tree? Yeah. Yeah. It's so good in Shelter 2. Like, we love it so much. We just haven't had time to put it into Shelter 3. Like, we want it for Shelter 3. It would be perfect for Shelter 3, but it's not going to be in there, at least not initially.
Cool. And then, since you looked up, is this also Shelter? Is it a game? Will you cry in this? I've heard a lot about that. There's good cry in Shelter. Is this a good cry game as well?
I mean, listen, I don't know. We never know. It's a weird developing game because you get completely blind to the emotional aspects of it. And I remember this very, vividly from Shelter 1. Like, we couldn't believe the response emotionally that people got when they played the game, because it was very hard to see when we were developing it, because we were just seeing, like, for a long time we just had 4 sort of squares following the mama badger, so we were a bit disconnected emotionally to the entire thing. So when you do a Shelter game, you become sort of numb to it. Like, you just run and then a calf dies and then you just continue running. I just have to look at this bug or whatever I'm doing. So it's fairly weird. Like, I'm probably the person that should not answer that question, whether or not you should cry. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm trying to keep the lookout if I've forgotten any Shelter question here in the in the comments. We had a Meadow question here. I want to try to get if there would be someone who really loved Meadow, if there would be anything new on Meadow. Here, I found it. I'm trying to find all you.
Yeah, Meadow. It's also my favorite game by far. It's from the studio, that is. I mean, Meadow is nice. No, but yeah, the issue with Meadow is, if I'm being completely honest, that it's been sort of a blessing and a curse for us, because we love the project, and a lot of people, like, the community is a lot sort of based around Meadow, but it's not really, it's a very sort of low cost game. It doesn't really lift us in any way. Like, we can't really trust it to be a driving force of the company somehow, and it's not that many people that are playing it, and it's a bit hard. So we have stuff planned for Meadow. We do. There will be tie-ins with Shelter 3 and some other things that we have in store, but we will see. So that I would sort of bounce the question back to the community a bit. Like, if Meadow is to survive in the long run, like, it has to be, we have to help out with it, sort of, to make it work, because at the moment it's pretty hard to update. It's hard spending our resources on, let's just put it that way. Yeah.
So make more people play it, and then
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's obviously it's on us as well, but yeah, we love the game, but
yeah. And then I come as a very concrete question here. So we if it will come to Switch or if it's only on PC and Steam.
Yeah, I mean it's exactly it's PC, Mac to start, and then for Switch we obviously did release Shelter 2 for Switch. It wasn't released, it wasn't ported by us, I should say. It was a third company that did that, third party. So I don't know if such a deal is possible in the future. I'm not sure.
Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna here someone says thanks for the sincere answer. They apparently love Meadow. Paulo says so. That's great.
Cool.
Please continue. We love it too.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we go over to Book of Travels, which will be the next here, is there something more we should know about Shelter 3 to get us more excited to play it? Like
no, I mean we're I'm currently working on a trailer for the game, so you can keep a lookout for that. It should be dropping around the time of the launch, so it's 30th this month, so last of March. Yep.
Okay, yes, so wishlist is on Steam and all of that. But then we come to, you have another project that will not be out March 30th, thank God, but rather sometime when it's spring, summer. Book of Travels, when you're not doing animals, it's people, it's this whole world, it's an MMO or a TMO. Could you tell us a bit about that? What was the inspiration and why did you want to do that and all of that from the start?
The story of Book of Travels, yeah. So I guess you could say that we're a company that likes to sort of invent the wheel with every project that we do. We're not that savvy business-wise, so we just find a niche and then just keep on doing that. Like if you look at our sort of resume, we've done so many different things, and that's again our blessing and our curse, I would say, because we founded Might and Delight because we wanted to do what we want to do, and doing what you want to do is not always the financially viable sort of strategy for a company of our size. So I would say the Book of Travels came out of the idea that what if we do something that we have no idea how to do? Like what if we do something that is just completely outside of the normal sort of framework that we're operating within? And I think that everything that we learned from Shelter, I felt as though there were so many role-playing dimensions of Meadow, for example, the community, the way we sort of approached the non-written communications and other features. We felt early on that it lended itself quite well to do another role-playing game, like a true role-playing game. And then we also felt like we had something to give to the genre, style-wise. We wanted to do a fantasy setting, like a fictional setting that challenged the norm a bit for what you're used to. So all those thoughts combined, we felt like we had an opportunity to do something that could challenge that norm. So
yeah. Would you care to elaborate in what challenged the norm is? And we also got the question here about inspiration. Is Journey one of your inspiration to create a non-toxic play?
Yes, it is. Journey, yes, it is. I mean, Journey was an inspiration for Shelter 1. Like Journey, I think, came out mid Shelter 1 or something like that, and it became pretty much something that we were like. I haven't played it myself. I know it's crazy, but I play so few games. But I mean, I obviously know its impact on the gaming culture and on the studio as well. So yeah, it's an inspiration.
Here this is just some praise we get, and then I'm going to find a new.
Nice.
Yeah, it's so lovely. I love this communication with community.
Cool.
And then we also have how the creative process looks.
Yeah.
Do you like sit in and I don't know how do you begin? How does it work?
Yeah, and also a question about the if there is new gameplay. Yeah, so let me take that one first because that's simple to answer. That there is new gameplay video coming out. We're unsure when. So there is a sort of a dimension of the game that we haven't shared that much of. That has to do with like dangers, how to engage in dangers, both as a combat mechanic, but also as avoiding dangers. Like what dangers really means, what conflict means in the world. It is something that we are very much looking forward to share because we strongly believe in that dimension, that the dangers and the sort of darkness of Book of Travels is what makes its beauty. Like that's what we want. We want the sort of the underlying sensation of the world to have, all the beauty, but then there are hints of darkness that sort of strengthens the serenity and the beauty of the world. So that feels very important. That's the next thing we're going to do. And as far as when it comes out, it's like the quality is the deadline for this. So once we're pleased with showing it, we will. But yeah, the creative process. Oh, sorry, Anna. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm thinking in 2 weeks we have another game coming out. So like maybe a spoiler, but not before that.
Yeah.
We'll focus on Shelter, and then sometime after Shelter is out.
Yeah, let's get that out of the door first. Yeah, true.
Yeah. So you'll all be elephants, and then you will get to see the
yes.
Next.
Then we'll focus on it. The creative process for Book of Travels is obviously it's a year-long process almost. The pre-production was the most intense that we've ever had. Like it's the biggest project by far for the studio. So it involved so many dimensions. It's hard to sort of summarize, but let's just put it in like simplified a bit that we knew that we wanted to do something different with the way the game is visually presented, like the way you interact with the world from on the basic level, like how you actually see the game view itself, and the way you maneuver the world. That is something that we spend, I would say, better part of 2 years like forging, because it is, when you look at the game now, it's hard to understand all the small things that goes into making it work, because the perspective is so bizarre from a technical standpoint. So that ate a lot of time for us to make it look like a painting that you're actually walking around in. So yeah, that was a big part of it.
Yeah, because you've been working with this for 4 years now, right?
Yes. Actually, our name for Book of Travels, before it was named Book of Travels, is Years. That is the project name for Book of Travels. Yeah, so we call it Years here. Yeah.
So it's many years.
Yes.
So how does it feel? There's been question here about when the game is out and all of that, and I think we can't be more specific than when it's warmer out, possibly.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We don't know. I mean, if we had a date, we would love to share it. We don't know. It would probably. I mean, it's around summer, I would say, and it also depends a bit on Steam. Like we're in contact with them currently to see what windows are good and so on. So it's a big deal trying to set everything up. Yep.
But do you working with this project for 4 years, and now it's still like you're seeing the end? Are you happy, tired, proud? Are you?
Yeah, probably all of them, I think. But the weird thing is that for me, I mean, I've been working with games for 15 years. I've done pretty much everything, but I've never done one of these projects where it's a sort of a living project where we release it now for early access, something that I haven't done before either. And then it's just going to continue to thrive. It's something that we have. Like we already have a 3-year plan post early access, and after that we have thoughts for additional years of content updates and stuff like that. So it's just something that is of a magnitude that I've never done before. So I'm trying to teach myself not to see it as a normal launch, because if I do, I think we will all burn ourselves out, because it is not a normal launch. It's not something that we just push out the door and then we pop champagne and hope everything is good. It's actually, the days after the release will be equally hectic, because then so much will come in, like feedback from the community, and we're basically trusting, the relationship between us and the playing fans of the game to just mold the experience to where we want it to be together. And that will demand a lot. So I'm definitely tired, but I feel like I need to save a lot because it's going to be so much is planned for post early access as well.
So after you get to play it, one should get all the feedback one can to you guys.
Yes, absolutely. And there's many sort of inbuilt. We've built in a lot of systems for it in the game. So you can basically, currently we have a system where you can take screenshots in the game. You can say like, yeah, I like something. I want to give like a positive feedback. I want to give a negative feedback. I have an idea or I have a bug. So we try to separate the four, so we can actually purify like what the feedback, so it becomes valuable for people to give it. So it doesn't just pile up in one place. So it makes sense to everyone to interact with us that way. Yeah.
So we also gotten some questions about
4 years.
About the gameplay, and this has been talked about. It's a serene RPG. You will go around. It's going on art, but it's also, as you say, it's a darker side. And someone asked about where is that comment? I had a questions about the death. Can that happen in this serene world?
Yes, it can. And this is the cool thing. We're basically, this stems out of the thing where we don't really want to operate the same way as normal MMOs. So yes, I will say this: you can die. It is hard to do in the game, but you can die, and there is a circularity to the entire thing. So we're again drawing from what we've done in Shelter games, which is that no matter how you sort of what happens during the game still goes on. Sort of, you can lose all your cubs in Shelter 1, and you will die at the end. But the game that becomes the game. That is the circle is sort of complete anyway. And without giving too much away, I would say that death is not the end in Book of Travels. There is more beyond death. Let's just put it that way.
It sounds very intriguing. Yes, we also had a question about the forms. Could you explain what is, if there's people who haven't followed, what's a form in Book of Travels, and how do you use that?
Yes, so we're basically redefining the concept of classes in sort of conventional RPGs a bit. So the forms of Book of Travels are different sort of archetypes of characters that you can choose from. So a form, the first thing that you choose for your character when you create it is the form. And the form dictates a lot of things, just like a class, like what type of skills you use and so on. But it also has that, it brings with it a certain energy, like everything from the portraits to its animations sort of says who you are from a role-playing perspective. So we try to step away from the notion that you define yourself by the items you carry, like if you carry this type of equipment, you're this. So we wanted to bring it more back into what type of personality or persona are you representing with your avatar. That's basically what the form is about. So they're inspired by like numerous heroes and characters from myths and legends and that type of thing. We did a pretty decent deep dive into like what the different forms should be about, their different inspirations, and yeah. So they, I mean, if you want to take the quick road, I would say it's comparable to classes. That's the quick answer. Yeah.
And we had a question: how many forms will be available initially?
I don't remember. Somewhat around 10, I think. And then forms can also be unlocked in the game. So there are different forms that can be unlocked by solving different sort of mysteries, or it doesn't have to be mysteries. It can be different situations that you encounter certain people in the game world, and then you can unlock that person as a form. That is something that will be introduced sort of intravenously post early access. So it's not something that's going on out on launch day. But yeah, so there will be more forms added.
So that's what you will be working with after launch as well. So there's
Oh
Years
yeah,
to
that and
come
much
here.
more. Yeah. I mean, the
Much
update
more.
schedule is looking absolutely stuffed.
Okay. Yeah, they had. Are there more details about different forms?
Details such as the details of the different forms, I trust, like what are
Yeah.
the differences and so on.
I'm not
Yeah,
really sure what he's meaning here, but like,
yeah.
what can we maybe get an example on a form?
Yeah, so the forms that we have now, for example, in the game, they all work off the idea to separate the sort of the personalities and the role playing style. So you'd have some forms that are more like, I don't know if this is going a bit too deep, but one of the inspirations for the forms was um, the personality wheel of Jung. Like, I think it was in one of the Steam posts, where basically each person, each like hero, thousand faces type of person, is aligned with one sort of goal and one sort of orientation, and that has been a part of creating the forms as well. So you would have forms that sort of seek, and then I'm not speaking about what you actually do in the game, but how they inspire the look of the form, the essence of the form. They might seek power. Other forms might seek like mastery or enjoyment or caring for others or things like that. So they're all underneath each form. There is a world of inspiration for how we perceive that type of archetype. So some people are just very carefree, or some forms rather are very carefree in their style. Others are focused and sort of oriented towards survival or adventure or challenges and stuff like that. Others are more mystical and so on. Some social, some loners, that type of thing. So you should pick one that sort of resonates with the way you want to role play currently. But you can also, I mean, I see it as we are giving people a palette, and then we'll see what people do with it. And maybe people will just play around with the concept in ways that we cannot imagine today. So we'll see.
Cool, because this is an MMORPG or TMORPG.
Yep.
It's like you role play. You put quite a lot of emphasis on the role playing.
Yeah.
And that's why the forms. And like, what happens if you meet another person? Do you then role play and interactive? Can you write, or is it emotes, or how?
Yeah,
how is
it is emulating a lot from what we did in Meadow. So currently we're not looking into any other way of communicating than visually, like with the emotes of Meadow. It's something that we felt was very intriguing because we were just giving people a sort of tool set of images, and then people were finding a grammar to connect those images into a language that they used sort of flawlessly. And I mean, everyone uses sort of emojis on the phone. I mean, you could probably, you don't have to go further than that. Like, you could probably communicate with emojis like fairly well, and that's what the game is trying to do. So it's about creating some sort of veil between players, a bit like Journey does as well, where there is a mystery between players. You don't have your Steam name popping up the first thing you do. You don't have someone writing some nonsense to you, trolling you, whatever. Immersion is sort of a veil between players. So that is very crucial. That is one of the foundational ideas of the game.
Yeah, this says
Tabletop for RPGs,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I guess you, Anna, you're a role playing person. I mean,
Yep.
I mean,
We have
personally,
we probably have some stuff in this library as well.
yeah. There's tons of stuff in there, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people that are in the dev team are like deep role, like tabletop fans. I'm not like aficionado myself, but I'm more into like CRPGs, like old computer RPGs. That's more of my personal inspiration, but yeah.
Then we're also going to address the MMORPG, TMORPG that I've been
Yeah.
saying now. What's a TMORPG?
Yeah,
Why the T?
yeah, that's the phrase that the genre that we're trying to invent, which is a tiny multiplayer online. I mean, it just speaks to we felt like it would be a bit cheesy calling us an MMO when we have like 10 people on a server or 20 people on a server, and encountering people should be quite rare and powerful in this game, hopefully. So it just felt weird to call it a MMO. I mean, that's the genre for sure, but it felt somewhat weird to. There's nothing massive about the game. Like it's intimate. It's very sort of mysterious, and the interactions between players doesn't have that sense that you will get in other MMOs where there's just 200 people at the same spot just crowding around, and that's not what this is about. So it was just fitting that we invented something.
So I'm also understanding the world. It is very nice, and it's going into a painting and all of that. But this dark undertone, it's open world, but there are stuff that happens that you will discover as you dig deeper.
Yeah, those are important for the rest of the world to sort of operate, because we believe that like a Ghibli movie wouldn't be beautiful if it weren't for the dark parts. Like we believe that's such a sort of key ingredients in creating like nice fictional worlds that are believable. So even if you're not a character that want to engage in adventure, then adventure is always at the doorstep. So even if you choose to stay in the Shire, so to speak, there's still stuff going on in the world that are that becomes like a background to the world that we feel is very important. So yeah, that's it.
I just wanted to lift this comment that someone really appreciates communication with emotes.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go into a very concrete question that I've seen before, that someone is wondering about transportation. Can you take the train? I've gotten this question before. So
yes, of course you can take the train. I think you can even, I don't know what you call this in English, but I think you can even like cheat your way onto a train without buying a ticket. I think. And there's boat lines. Yeah, the world is pretty much like an ecosystem of different transportations. And unfortunately for early access, it won't be that circular as it will be during in full release, because then the entire game map will be sort of unveiled, and then you can circulate the world much more freely. But for early access, there are still trains and boat lines that go within the early access world. So yes, definitely. But there is no other form of fast travel in the game. But we're looking into everything. This is the typical thing that we're sort of very, very keen on the community helping out with. Like how is it to actually navigate the world for an extensive period of time? Like what do we need more of? Like should we whatever. Yeah.
So people can wish like, yes, we want air balloons, or like do you say that in English? Like balloons you can
Yeah, exactly. Or should the train go more often, or should there be a way to find your friends without having to walk with them in the world? Like, are there dimensions and features that we can put into to sort of make it work without obstructing the balance of the traveling? Then we're into it.
But when you created the magical world of Book of Travels, have you like because lots of MMOs are in like medieval times. Here we have trains and boats.
Yes.
Like, what were your inspirations into creating this world, and what did you want it to feel like? Or did you did you pick something from this? You went to the library here and like this book, and take from different parts.
Yes, I mean it is different, definitely a mixture, but the industrial part of it comes from that we sort of played around with the idea that what if the sort of the ancient Greece or Greek societies had sort of evolved the Heron's ball concept of they had steam sort of technology, but at a very basic level. So we were inspired by the idea that what if they could take it further, or maybe they just left it there and someone else came to the world and sort of took it further. So the technology is somewhat presented as a mystery in the game that no one knows exactly where it comes from. It's somewhat inherited. It's a part of the world, and they are trying to, the settlers that now occupied that region of the world's British shore, or sort of emulating that and using it to as a part of their society. But yeah, there's a mystery behind the technology. But the inspiration was like it did exist as a concept way back, and yeah, what if we could continue on it?
Cool. I have another question here about if the world changed dynamically.
No, not currently. This is one of the things that we've sort of sacrificed on the altar of the game world or the art style or whatever, because it's been very difficult to do anything with it dynamically. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible to do in the future, like seasons and stuff like that. Currently, it isn't dynamic in that way. However, the world itself is, I mean, the content of the world is all, not all, but it's to a large degree randomized. So it's not randomly created, it's scripted by us. Like the narratives are written, by hand. Everything is set up by hand, but the way it occurs, like the different conditions for different things occurring, those are based off random parameters. So revisiting things are like one of the key things in the game, because if you would walk in a certain graveyard in a forest, one day it might be empty, the next day it might be a ritual, 2 hours later that there might be a person mourning there that you can interact with. So there's definitely a dynamic sort of vibe to the content of the world. But as far as sort of this mountain is now a volcano, or now it's all of a sudden winter in the entire world, that's not in the game currently.
Okay, so let's see. Oh God, I listening to you and doing questions, so my head, yes. But I think we're soon going to wrap up, because I'm just going to do one more question about Book of Travels, and then I'm going to do a question about Shelter and so on. So what should one expect? Why would one want to play Book of Travels?
Because it is an RPG that is pretty outstandingly different from other RPGs. So like if you like some of the sort of more role-playing adventurous type of concepts, then this is pretty much closer to that than, like, we feel as though this is a role-playing game, like an RPG, and that it doesn't have like you're not stuck in a gameplay loop that's based on sort of stats or numeric values that you have to sort of grind. So yeah, I mean, if you're into that, then I think this game will be your thing.
So, and as warm, there's also been tons of questions about when it's out, and I'm just going to repeat: summer.
When it's warm, yeah.
When it's warm.
When it's done, yeah.
Yeah, when it's done after 4 years or so.
No, but we are looking to release this summer. That can be said. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, and then we had question about Shelter. People like, oh, can there be a Shelter 4, and what animals would there be? And like, so now I'm talking future, and you may be like, yes, we're doing Shelter 3, play that, and then
yeah. No, I mean, if Shelter 3 is received well, and there are people that like to create another Shelter game, then another Shelter game will be created. But I'm just speaking for myself. No, I'm not. I'm speaking for a lot of the dev team, actually. We're sort of fatigued on Shelter, to be perfectly honest. We are investigating the idea of having like a dedicated Shelter team that would do meta updates and small side stuff like graphical novels and DLCs and stuff like that. So if Shelter 3 goes well, and the brand continues to draw attention and to thrive, then something like that might be. We're not announcing Shelter 4 anytime soon, though. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're going to wrap it up now, because yeah. And
yes.
And so please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like this. We will hopefully do this once a month if this works and if it feels good. And if you felt we did something weird, let us know, and we will do something unweird next time, or possibly more.
It was probably weird.
Yeah. This is it. And Shelter 3 will be out March 30th, and Book of Travels when it's warm, come summer sometime.
Yes, and thank you for all the nice questions. It's been great reading and cool stuff. Yeah,
I'm like, should I say something more? I've said subscribe. I said social media. I'm going to say thank you, Jakob, for being this interview and for also putting 4 years of your life a book of travels.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just saying thank you. So we're gonna say goodbye, and then I'm gonna press
everyone.
end the studio. Bye.
Bye.